the office, so I have to get the training with it.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Office of Illinois Works 2026 Grantee Manual Webinar 2. This session, we will be covering the 2026 Grantee Manual.
Logan, what happened?
Oh, excuse
Oh,
me. Could everyone please mute their line?
I think Ronell and Yvette took it.
There we go. All right. Again, thank you all for joining us today. The 2026 Grantee Manual is comprised of 14 different sections, and we will cover all of those sections over 3 webinars. This is the second of the 3 webinars, so of course we already had session 1. This training is very important for grantees. Not only is it full of guidance that you are required to follow within that grantee manual, but the grantee manual is also designed to provide you with tools that allow you to better implement your program and have more successful outcomes. The target audience for this program would be any individuals that are accountable for data entry, data management, the pre-apprenticeship program completion tracking, transition support, follow-up services, any task related to maintaining contact with participants after graduation from the program. So really, this particular session covers a very substantial portion of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program from the grantee perspective. So some of the roles that should be viewing this session include the program administrators, program managers, program coordinators, outreach and recruitment coordinators, wraparound service coordinators, student support service coordinators, the transition service coordinators, data entry coordinators, as I mentioned, and the training coordinators. So individuals working with the instructors within your organization. So next slide, please. My name is Dan Martinez, and I am the Senior Pre-Apprenticeship Program Manager. I've been with the state of Illinois for a little over 7 years. I've worked with DCEO and specifically the Office of Illinois Works since 2022. I've had the privilege of assisting grantees initially as a programmatic grant manager and more recently as a financial grant manager. I look forward to continuing to assist grantees in serving this program because ultimately we can have a profound impact on the citizens of Illinois through the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. So the Office of Illinois Works has a team of passionate experts committed to supporting your pre-apprenticeship program success. So I'd like some of the folks that are currently going to be sharing content with you today or working on the production today to go ahead and introduce themselves. I'll call you by name since there's several of us. I'll start with Monica. Would you be able to unmute and say hello?
I'm happy to unmute and say hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Grantee Manual Session 2. Thank you for joining us today.
Perfect. Thank you. Edwin, can you say hello?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Dan. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Look forward to being in this session with everyone today.
Thanks, Edwin. We also have Shar, another programmatic grant manager.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Let's see, on the call today, we also have Carlita. She'll be conducting the evaluation at the end. Can you say hello?
Good morning, everyone. Hello, and have a great session today.
We also have with us Olivia, if you could say hello today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you guys for being here today.
Shiva is working as our virtual producer. So can you say hello, Shiva?
Hey, hello everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the session.
And Gia is helping us with the recording of today's session.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. So again, this is the team that's facilitating the content today. It's important to acknowledge the entire Office of Illinois Works, beginning with our Deputy Director, Dr. Norman Ruano. He was selected by the Governor's Office to really create and operate not only the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, but the entire Office of Illinois Works. We have additional members of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program team that are not on this call, as well as other teams under the Office of Illinois Works umbrella that are responsible for the Apprenticeship Initiative, the Bid Credit Program, and our Career Services team. So we'd like to thank them all for their contributions. I was just alluding to how Dr. Norman Ruano was selected by the Governor's Office. That really stems from the creation of Illinois Works. If we go to the next slide, we'll see that Illinois Works was created as a result of Governor Pritzker's historic $45 billion capital plan. That is a plan called Rebuild Illinois. And it's through this capital plan that Governor Pritzker affirmed his commitment to expanding equity in the Illinois construction workforce. And as an Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grantee, you are now part of this exciting initiative that will create opportunities for Illinois businesses, communities, and families. Illinois Works consists of several programs, including the Apprenticeship Initiative that I mentioned, the Bid Credit Program, of course, our Pre-Apprenticeship Program, and I mentioned a Career Services team that kind of binds us all together. So we're very lucky to have all those. Today, we are focused on the onboarding for Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, but it's important to keep in mind that this is a system of programs. The Office of Illinois Works is put together to further the goal of ensuring a sustainable, equitable construction workforce within the state of Illinois. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this training is the second of a three-part series that reviews each section of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grantee Manual for 2026 to ensure that grantees not only, again, adhere to the guidance as required, but can effectively implement their pre-apprenticeship program. So during this webinar, we will cover 5 sections of the Grantee Manual. If you have not yet accessed the 2026 Grantee Manual, a link is going to be provided in the chat for you, and this will allow you to download the 2026 Grantee Manual. Please note that during this webinar, we will refer to the Grantee Manual, including sometimes page numbers, but we'll call out specific tables or templates. exhibits and different sections of the grantee manual. All of the guidance in this session is based on the 2026 Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grantee Manual. Many of you may have, copies of the 2025 Grantee Manual or even a previous year's. Please keep in mind that those manuals for previous grant years are no longer valid, and that the all 2026 programmatic activity must adhere to the 2026 Grantee Manual. So this webinar will cover the following sections of that Grantee Manual. So Section 4, which is outreach and recruitment. Section 5, which is program application and intake. Section 6, which is the participant wraparound services and student support services. Section 7, which are training, instruction, and certification requirements. Section 8, which covers program completion, transition services, and follow-up with program graduates and participants. So like I said, it really covers the heart of any pre-apprenticeship program and the cohort in which you're going to be operating. So hopefully that link has been shared in the chat, and yeah, it looks like it has. So you'll have an opportunity to download that. All right, so what can you expect to learn from today's session specifically? So by the end of this training, you will be able to identify the outreach and recruitment tools that we have to offer in the Grantee Manual and different methods that we outline. You'll be able to respond to leads based on their category and understand how those are identified in the Illinois Works reporting system. Apply eligibility criteria. That's a really important concept. We have defined eligibility requirements that cannot be reduced or enhanced by grantees. You'll be able to support potential participants through the program application process, complete an overall intake process, understand the wraparound services that need to be provided and can be provided, the different student support services that are available. The next slide, please. You'll also understand the requirements around complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act. You'll be able to implement a comprehensive program orientation, create a comprehensive curriculum based on experiential training. This is a very hands-on learning program. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program is a construction, hands-on apprenticeship readiness program. So it's really important to have that experiential training. Incorporate Kirkpatrick Level 1 evaluations. All training modules require a post-assessment. You're required to retain those post-assessments. Certainly there are some online depending on the apprenticeship readiness program that you're utilizing. But the hands-on portion where the trainer is observing and recording assessments, those must be retained in your paper files with for each participant. So those evaluations are extremely important. You'll learn to provide the transition services that are available and again required, and engage in follow-up activities with the graduates of the pre-apprenticeship program. So it's definitely a lot. We're going to cover it all today. We're going to be try to be mindful of your time. We want to take as many questions as you have, but it's a lot to cover. So we will try to do this very, very thoroughly yet quickly. So as you should have heard when you joined the call, this session is being recorded. It will be made available for your review on the Illinois Works Partner Guide website. The link to that partner guide will be placed in the chat for you. For those of you that were able to join the administrators orientation in Naperville or the session 1 WebEx webinar for the Grantee manual training, you'll know that we often refer to the partner guide. It is an extremely valuable repository of Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program information. So if you have not yet bookmarked that website, I encourage you to, grab the link from the chat and make sure that you, after this session, take a look around the partner guide, make sure it's bookmarked for your future use, and you'll be set to have a successful programmatic year. Incidentally, the grantee manual link that you received actually comes from the partner guide as well. So it's really an important website for all of our programs to utilize. So any questions before we proceed to the next section? If so, you can unmute your line, you can post a question in the chat. As I mentioned, we'll try to take questions throughout the webinar. We have defined periods where we stop and ask for your questions. So any questions in the chat?
There are no questions in the chat, Dan.
Okay, well, perfect. Let's move on. Here we're going to do a little introduction and welcome to the program. One of the things that you'll notice during our webinars, our in-person trainings, we are very big on introducing ourselves to one another. We want this to be a community of grantees where we all learn from each other, gain industry experience. So we'll definitely be doing that today. So we hope you'll take that from this training and this particular section. We will be using Mentimeter. This is a technology that we use to, there we go. All right, thank you. We will be using Mentimeter. It's a technology that we use to make sure that the webinars are interactive. We also typically use Mentimeter to capture feedback at the end of our meetings, which we will again do today. So ideally, you will use Mentimeter as an app through WebEx. So you should be able to see in the right-hand corner of your WebEx window a screen that says multimedia viewer external site alert. There's a blue button that allows you to click continue, and then when you press that button, the Mentimeter app will display right there in your WebEx panel. So I'll give everyone a moment to do that. While you're working on that, if you cannot use Mentimeter through WebEx for some reason, maybe several of you are sharing a computer in a conference room or something, and everyone wants to have access to, and everyone should have access to Mentimeter, go ahead and place that information in the chat. Or I'm sorry, go ahead and access the Mentimeter through the information that's being placed in the chat. There's also a QR code that's on the screen, and you should be able to gain access that way. So I'll give just a moment for people to do that. If you're having any issues, go ahead and raise your hand with WebEx or send something in the chat. Okay, I think everyone was able to access it. Thank you. So let's move on to the introduction portion. So we're going to use Mentimeter, and in Mentimeter, we're going to ask you to, put your name, your organization, your role, the geographic location. Are you, in the city of Chicago? Are you in Springfield? Are you in Southern Illinois, Northern Illinois? Give us a sense of where your program is located. And then if you attended session 1 of the Grantee manual training, please put an asterisk next to your name. So, so we get a sense of how many returning learners we have today. So let's move to that question in Mentimeter. Oh, great. Well, lots of folks have already started filling that out. It looks like we have 24 responses. So we have Bethel Family Resource Centers here, Charles Thomas with Metropolitan Family Services. Good morning. To Sean with Eden Career Institute. Good morning. Elena with MFS. Melanie with SWIC. Good to have you here. Rosalind with the Springfield Project. Lita with the Center of Innovation, Rana with Center of Innovation, Yuritsi with ASI, Victoria from Youth Build McLean County, Mahogany with Ascending Knowledge. We have Shubra with Quad County, Christina from Hasia, Naji with Harmony International, Michael with ASI Services, Melissa with Eden Career Institute. Good morning, everyone. This is fantastic. Seth with Richland Community College, Tracy from Youth Build McLean, Alexander with SWIC, Debbie with R3 Development, Sonia with the Community Works, Vanessa with Metropolitan Family Services, Melanie with SWIC. We have Aaron with Spark 618, Hannah with MFS, Barbara with ASI. It's a great, representation here of our grantee network. I really appreciate this. Wadette with Eden Career Institute, Marina with MFS, Saya with Revolution Workshop, Mary with the Community Works, Navid with Metropolitan Family Services, Kelvin with Eden Career Institute, and Karis with EDDR Rockford. So this is fantastic. Thank you all for sharing. We do have 50 participants or so. So, it looks like we maybe had 35 or 36 respond. That's really great. Again, we want to make sure we're capturing everyone and fully making these interactive. So Nadia, we also have here with CAPS. Good morning and welcome everyone. So thank you very much. Please keep your Mentimeter open throughout the webinar, as we'll be coming back to it frequently. Next up, we want to make sure that everyone can utilize WebEx. So we're going to just very briefly, you know what we'll do? Let's see, we're going to do a quick survey using the raise hand feature of WebEx. So this is kind of a little test to see how many of you are familiar with WebEx. So there's a hand feature, raise hand feature. So if you could click on that and keep your hand up, and that will allow us to see how many of you are familiar with WebEx, are able to utilize that feature, and are comfortable with WebEx. Otherwise, we'll kind of do a walkthrough of each of the different sections. But I know a lot of you were here in previous sessions. Yeah, it looks like everyone has their hand raised there. A couple at the bottom, maybe not. A couple new folks. So we will just make sure you understand. Okay, go ahead and click that and put your hand back down. Thank you all for doing that.
Looking at my where was I looking?
Jasmine, I think you have your you clicked unmute
Oh,
instead
yes, I got it.
of your hand raised. So
Hold on.
go ahead and mute yourself again, please. There we go. All right. So speaking of which, that mute button at the bottom, very important. Please keep your line muted while the presenter's talking. Again, we get to those question spots at the end of each section. You can go ahead and unmute and ask a question, or you can place them in the chat as you're thinking of them, and we'll address them during those question and answer periods. And then we do have that hand raised. So if you have a question and you'd like us to pause before we get to the question period, you can always utilize that. So go ahead, and if you have your hand raised, click on that hand again and lower your hand so that we know that it's not an actual question that you're looking to ask of us. All right. So let's move on. We'll go back to a Mentimeter, and please share with us what you are hoping that we cover today. What kind of topics are you hoping that you'll learn? Again, these are meant to be interactive. If you don't have a response, go ahead and put NA in the chat, or I'm sorry, in Mentimeter, so that we know that you've had an opportunity to respond. Looks like we have 41 people that are registered in Mentimeter. All right, so a lot of folks, you're here to accept whatever we had to share in those 5 sections, section 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's perfect. No problem there. We have a couple answers, processes for invoice submission and data tracking. So we definitely will cover in a separate workshop invoice submission, so expense reimbursement and things like that. Data tracking, that it would be part of our IWRS training series. So we will get to those questions, just not in this particular webinar. Lots of folks, couple of folks saying everything, whatever we have to teach you, you're ready to learn. So really appreciate that enthusiasm. We do have a couple thoughts here on any updates or new information. So this is a good time to point out this session, excuse me, this session is for new individuals that have not been through the IWRS training before, onboarding before, that are new to the grantee manual. We will have for returning grantees or individuals an IW or a grantee manual updates session. So that's not this meeting. So if you're looking for updates, go to that partner guide. Again, as I mentioned, that's an extremely important website. And make sure you're registered for the grantee manual update meeting. That's where you'll find those updates or new information. And here we have a great one, hoping to get a clear understanding of the needs of my role in Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. So that is fantastic. We'll definitely be going to be covering that. And then as a new program, looking for the requirements and details or an updates from the 2025 manual to get us off to the right start. So again, we're not covering the updates from 2025. We're just covering the 2026 grantee manual as though it's the first time you're seeing it. So again, I recommend that you check out the partner guide for those update meetings. So thank you all very much for sharing this information. We are going to, as I mentioned, keep Mentimeter open, but we're going to move on. I do want to mention that we have a method for you to provide feedback to us. That is through the general grant management email link. So we do have that there. Of course, all of you should have been reached out to by your programmatic grant managers. So you should have a relationship there. If you have any questions, you can always go directly to your grant manager with those questions. But if there's a general comment or feedback that you want to provide, you can also do it through this general email box. All right, any questions before we move on to the next section?
There are no questions in the chat.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much for your time today. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and hand the microphone off to, I believe it's Edwin, and he will take us through the outreach and recruitment.
Great, thank you, Dan, for the introduction. I appreciate it. So we will kick off, all the content that Dan went over in the introduction. So starting off, we'll look at section 4, outreach and recruitment. So overall, the objectives of this section. So by the end, you'll be able to describe the role of outreach and recruitment in the success of the pre-apprenticeship program. Describe the types of participant leads and follow-up activities with each lead type. Leverage outreach, recruitment resources, methods, samples, and tools to create a pipeline into your pre-apprenticeship program. Learn how to track outreach and recruitment efforts in the Illinois Works Reporting System, also known as IWRS, and integrate DIBE and the 6 core values into all elements of your program's outreach and recruitment strategy. And we'll go over at that point what DIBE stands for. All right, next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we'll look at section 4 of the grantee manual, outreach and recruitment. And this, again, we're reviewing the 2026 grantee manual. Next slide, please. And just as a reminder, we are looking at the life cycle. The whole pre-apprenticeship program is that life cycle. Right now, we're starting off with the first part of that life cycle, outreach and recruitment. It provides potential participants with information about their pre-apprenticeship program with the objective of recruiting interested and qualified candidates to apply for the pre-apprenticeship program. Now, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship 2026 Grantee Manual will provide you with information, techniques, and tools to help you and your program staff highlight the goals, the program components, and core values of your Illinois Works Peer Apprenticeship program. And again, you'll recognize this Peer Apprentice Life Cycle from Grantee Manual Session 1. So remember that we are starting right now with the top of the life cycle highlighted in red there. Next slide, please. Now, the primary goal of outreach and recruitment activities is to identify potential participants or participant leads. Participant leads are individuals who may be interested in enrolling in the pre-apprenticeship training program. The aim is to funnel leads through the screening process and transform qualified individuals from leads into applicants. And it's important to know qualified individuals is key there. Next slide, please. Okay, now for activities and materials related to outreach and recruitment, um, those outreach and recruitment efforts may be the first time a potential participant will encounter the Illinois Peer Apprenticeship Program offered by your organization, your program instructors, and or your staff. So with that being said, it's essential that individuals representing your program can articulate what the program has to offer, as well as the value proposition for potential participants. You are certainly allowed to create your own materials. However, it may be relevant to know that Illinois Works provides several tools to assist you, including the template 4, which is a sample marketing plan, worksheet, and timeline. You should already have a marketing plan as your organization is doing onboarding with your programmatic grant manager. If not, you should be working with your programmatic manager now to finalize one. The information during the sessions be provided, to kind of help emphasize those efforts. In addition, with the marketing plan, we do have template 5 in the grantee manual. It's a sample Illinois pre-apprenticeship program flyer. And then we also do have template 6, which is the sample Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program information sheet. And again, all these templates are available in the appendix of the 2026 grantee manual on the partner guide. All right, now, so outreach and recruitment partnerships. So outreach and recruitment efforts should also focus on potential partners, including nonprofits, employers, and others, with the goal of growing your partner network. Next slide, please. Okay, so with this graph here, the primary goal of outreach and recruitment activities is to identify potential participants of participant leads. Again, participant leads are individuals who may be interested in enrolling in the pre-apprenticeship training program. The aim is to funnel leads through the screening process and transform those qualified individuals from leads into applicants. And we will address the screening application process later on during this training today. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we'll go over the lead types, the categories for each lead. So as you pursue your outreach and recruitment activities, it is helpful to understand your target audiences and how you might best communicate with them. This can help you maximize your efforts and get the best return on your outreach and recruitment efforts. So potential participants typically fall into one of the 4 categories. So a hot lead, those are individuals who have already decided they would like to apply for consideration as a pre-apprenticeship participant. We also have warm leads, the individuals who have shown some interest in being a pre-apprenticeship participant, but are not yet ready to apply. They might have responded to social media marketing, and program staff had some contact with them. Then there's cold leads. These are individuals who might have first responded to marketing efforts, but the program staff have not been able to have a contact with them and successful contact with them. Or program staff may have had some contact, but the person expressed little interest in applying to the program. And lastly, we have closed leads. Those are individuals who have definitely expressed a lack of interest in being a pre-apprenticeship participant or did not pass the pre-screening process. Now, why are these categories important? It's it's important so you know how to respond to each lead and know where each outreach and recruitment efforts are for each lead. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, now it's important to understand your target audiences because then that helps you inform your touches. Now, the goal of outreach and recruitment efforts is to transform qualified and interested leads into applicants, as I mentioned before. And this is accomplished through consistent and strategic communications with potential applicants, also known as touches. A touch is any communication opportunity that motivates qualified individuals to apply. So a touch may include, but not limited to, social media posts slash connections, face-to-face conversations, presentations, webinars, phone calls, a branded email. Word of mouth is even a touch. A newsletter, post, text message, postcard. So the list goes on. So these are just some examples. Next slide, please. Okay, now a landing page, and if, for those program administrators who have done or are in the process of doing their onboarding with your programmatic grant manager, you're aware of, you have heard us talk and ask about your landing page, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship 2026 Grantee Manual does provide a comprehensive guide on the outreach and recruitment methods, but specifically the creating a landing page for your program, you can find on page 76 of the Grantee Manual, um, more guidance on this. But one requirement is that each pre-apprenticeship program must have a landing page. Organization websites will be one of the first locations potential participants access to seek program information. Now, our landing pages are also linked to the Illinois Works heat map and are part of the resources we make available to the public, which eventually results in the referrals we send to your program. Just so you know, in 2025, the Office of Illinois Works, so us, we issued more than 1,000 referrals to grantees. So those are individuals from the public who called or emailed our office and said, hey, we want to be part of the pre-apprenticeship program. Can you let us know what programs close to us? So we sent over 1,000 referrals just last year. Now, just so you're aware, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Grantee Manual specifies there should be a dedicated landing page for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program that clearly outlines the program goals, requirements, application process, information sheets that you can download, and other key information. Now, again, please note this page should also be linked and included in social media posts or other outreach and recruitment materials. And your program and grant managers have likely already reached out to your teams to ask for the link for the program managers. If you have not already done so, please share with your programmatic grant managers, but your programmatic grant managers will be in touch on more on the landing pages and get more information on that. Okay, great. So we're going to do a little exercise here to get our brains working and stay active here. So using Mentimeter, please answer the following question. What type of touches are part of your outreach and recruitment plan? So please using the, the Mentimeter there, what touches are part of your outreach and recruitment plan? And you can just write it down, and we'll take a minute here to be able to put those in Mentimeter and acknowledge them as those come in. So again, touches include social media posts, connections, face-to-face conversations, presentations, webinars, phone calls, branded email, word of mouth, newsletters, blog posts, text messages, postcards. All right, so we're getting some in. So we do have, excuse me, social media, word of mouth, job fairs. All right, Facebook, Instagram, open house, text, webpage, social media, community events, information sessions. All right, so these are great touches, brochures, networking. Social media seems to be the big key one. That's why it's in big. It shows that there's multiple people entering that. So yeah, especially with how the world is so evolved and focused around social media, I can see why that's a big one with our grantees. Community events, weekly information sessions, targeted marketing. I like the job fairs idea, calls, outreach. So, all right, great. So we're getting a lot of different news reports as well. All right, that's awesome. So I'm glad you all have different touches that seems to be working and utilizing. Someone even mentioned all, so you're using all the touches, visits, school visits even. All right. Okay, so thank you very much, Evan, for participating. I appreciate it. And if you are not doing one of those touches, hopefully you got some ideas here from your colleagues of the program on what your outreach and recruitment touches may look like. So we can go back to the PowerPoint slide now, Shiva, please. All right, thank you very much. So through data varies, what we know is that we can take between 6 to 8 touches to convert a cold lead into an applicant. Now, here's the challenge with that. By the third or fourth touch, nearly 90% of organizations stop trying. So as would be expected, cold leads typically require more touches than warm leads, and warm leads typically require more touches than hot leads. Your program should not view the third or fourth touch as a failed attempt. Instead, these touches should be viewed as a countdown to the application process for qualified and interested individuals. Consider how this data might impact how you approach outreach and recruitment. Next slide, please. Now, with that being said, touches are not always intuitive. Which touch, when, or how many? Um, Now, here's a table for you to know, and we do have, so we talk about what action steps and timelines and some ideas here. And I won't go into detail on each specific lead and the action steps to follow, but I would say this is in the 2026 Grantee Manual, Table 10. It's titled Lead Follow-Up Steps and Timeline. So you could find this table in the 2026 Grantee Manual. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So right here we do have the heat map, and I mentioned it earlier. When I went over the landing page section and how we when you provide your landing page to your programmatic grant manager, we link that to our heat map. So this is one of the many tools that Illinois Works is available to its grantees to support this success. This technology provides an overview of statewide demographic data, Illinois Works project data, as well as the location and essential information of all Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, and also DOL registered apprenticeship programs. Grantees can access information, again, regarding the pre-apprenticeship program, concentration of underrepresented populations, economic development region, Illinois Works projects by county, and also DOL registered apprenticeship programs. And again, this map is utilized by both the pre-apprenticeship program and the apprenticeship initiative to connect the public with local training programs, contractors with apprentices, and grantees with DOL registered programs in their region. Now, the map's coloring demonstrates a number of Illinois Works projects happening in each county, with dark pink symbolizing higher concentration and darker teal representing a lower concentration. And the red circles that you do see on the map there, they represent a concentration of underrepresented population as outlined in the Illinois Works Programs Job Act, which includes women, individual of colors, and veteran. And the blue squares do represent apprenticeship program. The yellow stars represent the Illinois Works funded pre-apprenticeship program. And again, your information sheet should be posted on your website, which will connect to the Illinois Works heat map. Um, and again, it's important that you do provide an updated landing page to your programmatic grant manager because, as I mentioned, just last year, our office staff referred over 1,000 people to our programs. So the public does definitely, they do refer to our heat map and website to see which program they can get more interest on. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So it looks like we'll continue using Mentimeter for another exercise. So there is a question there. So using Mentimeter on your WebEx, and if not, I believe the link is provided in the chat for you all as well. So the question now we'll go over is, given your target audience, what locations might be appropriate for distribution of either the flyers or information sheets? Again, this will look different, depending on what your location might be. So, uh, imagine your location is in Chicago versus a colleague who may be in downstate central Illinois. So, given your target audience, what locations might be appropriate for distribution of either the flyers or information sheets? So, I'll give you. Okay, so we have the first answer here. We do have high schools. Okay, that's great. And yes, for those high school graduates, for those who may be in senior and after they graduate or 18 over can enroll in your program. We do have churches, that's great, job fairs, universities. Um, okay, great. Um, with the universities, it could be someone that may be interested in shifting, who may be in college or university and are like, hey, this isn't for me. I have a more interest in becoming in the construction trades. Same thing, I saw city colleges there. That'll be good for those people who may be interested in shifting their education. Community boards, libraries, alternative schools, bus stops, CTE programs, that's great. College fairs, internal departments, local churches, student senior counselors, workforce programs, information desks, nonprofit organizations, internal departments, someone said community centers, faith locations, coffee houses, housing programs. This is great. There's all great information, and it looks like you all are getting a good sense of, where to locate potential applicants of your program. I appreciate. So we can go back to a PowerPoint, and thank you again, everyone, for participating and sharing your ideas again. Hopefully, this also allows you to get a sense of ideas on what you may do if you see other answers that spark an interest in your mind that, hey, I can do this too with my program. All right, so now we'll talk about how to track participant outreach and recruitment in the Illinois Works reporting system, IWRS. Now, outreach and recruitment are program requirements for Illinois Works. As a result, participants and partner engagement must be recorded in IWRS. Now, the primary goal of outreach and recruitment activities is to identify potential participants or participant leads. All leads are to be entered in the Illinois Works reporting system. Now, this is the database, again, as we've gone over by all grantees to track participant information, and more details on how to navigate IWRS are located in the 2026 grantee manual. We did have a IWRS webinar session 1, and we do have the in-person one for new staff to Illinois Works next week. Now on the screen, there is a screenshot from IWRS that shows how to add a lead to the system. Grantees will first enter the individual's name, contact information, their lead status. Again, we did go over what the lead status is, whether they're hot, warm, cold, or closed. So you will need to enter what lead status they are. Document follow-up dates, and you will need to add case notes if they are applicable. Now, once contact information and lead type are chosen and submitted, the pre-screen assessment will populate. It is not until the pre-screening assessment is completed that the individual is officially added to IWRS. And you will need to learn about outreach and recruitment and IWRS during the IWRS sessions coming up next week. Okay, pre-screening, thank you for moving on. After outreach and recruitment activities happen, but before the application is the pre-screening, okay? So again, after outreach and recruitment activities, but before the application, there is pre-screening. The pre-screen assessment falls under outreach and recruitment stage on the pre-apprentice lifecycle. The pre-screening process provides information regarding outreach and recruitment efforts, and allows grantees to gather basic information regarding leads and to determine if a potential applicant meets the basic requirements of the program. So once a lead has expressed interest, they should be pre-screened. Can you move to the next slide or the graphic? Okay, great, thank you. So there's a copy there, a screenshot of the pre-screen assessment. Now the assessment does ask seven questions to determine basic eligibility and gathers the lead's demographic information to help keep the Illinois Works job program at requirements. And those questions on your screen, I know it seems a little bit small, so I'll go over them. Do you have an interest in making a career in the construction industry? Do you have ability to attend the program? Do you have a high school diploma or GED high set? Are you at least 18 years of age? Are you an Illinois resident? Have you enrolled or participated in a USDO apprenticeship program, or are you a declared DOL apprenticeship program journey person? How did you hear about this program? So if the answer is yes to the first five and no to the sixth questions, eligibility is meant for approved high school programs, the applicant should complete a program application. Now, if the answer is yes to question 6, the applicant is ineligible for the program and cannot be allowed to continue the process. Now, after completing the questions above, the assessment requests how the individual heard about the program, the participant's sex and race, and the grantee's determination if the individual meets all program requirements. Now, once the assessment is completed, the individual will be added to IWRS as an inquiry. At this point, the grantee can leave the individual as an inquiry if the participant is not yet ready to complete an application. Alternatively, if the participant is ready to move forward, the grantee can choose to move on to the next step, which is completing a program application. Now, the pre-screen assessment can be conducted on paper in the event that grantees are at a job fair, another in-person event where IWRS is not readily available, but answers must be entered in the Illinois Works reporting system within 24 hours of completion. And again, refer to the partner guide resource page or the 2026 grantee manual for technical instructions, or for a hard copy of the pre-screen questions that you change screen there. Now, please note that IWS pre-screen assessment determines basic eligibility for the program. Organization institutions may not impose criteria from other workforce development or academic programs on Illinois Works applicants. Of specific note, colleges, universities, and other academic institutions cannot deny admission if an applicant owes institution money for any reason, such as tuition, parking tickets, meal plans, etc. Eligibility is determined using a pre-screening assessment and cannot be modified by the grantee. All right, move on to the next slide, please. All right, a lot of information on outreach and recruitment. Are there any questions before we move on to the next section? If there is, please put them in the chat. And if not, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay, so we do have one question in the chat right now, and this is from Ronell, and he asks, how should applicants with backgrounds be handled, in particular violent and sex offender backgrounds? What are the guidelines?
Okay, so there will be individuals who, who have a criminal record. That's not a eligibility requirement. That's not an eligibility question. If someone has a previous conviction, whatever the case may be, they can still participate in the program. We do have program policies in place that all participants need to go over, and all programs also need to submit with their programmatic grant manager during onboarding, such as the sexual harassment prevention policy, bullying policy. So that all that needs to go over with your participants once it's approved by your programmatic grant manager. So at that point, the expectations should be laid out to those individuals if they do qualify for the program and if they do meet those eligibility requirements and do the site enroll. During orientation, all that needs to go over with your participants so they know the expectation in case whatever case may be. But you may not, if they meet all the eligibility requirements, you may not deny them access to the program just because they have a previous conviction, a criminal record. Just as a reminder, the construction and trades is one of the most friendliest industries for returning citizens. So we don't want to, hinder them from an opportunity because of their previous decisions and mistakes. So that doesn't prevent someone from enrolling in our program.
Thank you, Edwin. There are a few other questions here in the chat. Aaron is asking, can individuals complete an assessment on our website and email it to us?
No, that should be done with the participant. So again, you need to do that pre-screening with the participant. No, it can't be done on your website. Again, at that point, that'll be open to anyone in the public. So you need to make sure you're doing it following our steps of guidance.
Okay, great. Thank you. Here's another question. Dockery says, can you clarify the portions about tuition balances and parking tickets?
Yeah, so for any academic institution, whether it's a college, university, they cannot deny admission to an applicant if they owe money for to that academic institution. So our program does not have other pre-eligibility requirements, and the Illinois Works program, they can register for our program even if they owe tuition, parking tickets, meal plans. whatever the case may be. So they cannot be denied for any of those reasons.
Okay, and then we have one from Melissa. I'm going to read it, but I'm going to ask Melissa to unmute her mic so that we can get clarity. When the assessment and applications are completed, are the leads completed directly in IWIS? If you could, Melissa, can you please clarify your question?
Certainly. When I'm thinking about how we're setting up our systems, and so say we have an information session and we get leads from that, but we have to do the pre-assessment. Are the leads, are they getting a sign in at that time where they complete the application and it's already an IWRS, or are we importing the information in? I'm just trying to understand the flow of information.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, so you would need, so if you want to do the 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 pre-screening in person on paper, right? We do have a hard copy, as I mentioned, on our partner guide and in the grantee manual. But any outreach and recruitment needs to start and log in IWRS. So if you're in a outreach, you're doing an outreach effort and you have someone who you have made a contact with, you will need to track who that is. Again, you will need to enter what kind of lead they are. So if they're a hot lead, you're saying, you know what, please let me know right here and now if I pre-qualify for the program, and you do provide that pre-screening in person, that assessment in person. You will need to have that paper copy in person, but then within 24 hours, you need to enter that participant's information IWRS. So you need to enter what kind of lead they were at that point. In this example, it sounds like they were a hot lead. And then you will need to transfer the information on that paper assessment in IWRS, and that pre-screen will populate depending on that lead type. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, or if we have a digital process, they do that pre-screen, and if they're eligible, then it can automatically open the application process.
Um, so again, it's in the IWRS. So if you're doing a paper pre-screen assessment, you know, at that point you will need to transfer it over to IWRS, and then IWRS it will prompt you on how to move forward. Again, IWRS is our reporting system, so anything else that you may have internally to keep track, that's great. But what's entered in IWRS is what matters. So you need to follow what's in IWRS.
Oh, I completely understand. So if we're in an event and we pre-screen in person, then whoever, the outreach person is, we can be signed in to IWRS and complete their verification, their pre-assessment, directly in IWRS, correct?
Yeah, if that's what works best for you, or if you have a paper one, you have a colleague who's then entering in, who knows who's a data entry coordinator and enters into IWS within 24 hours, that's fine. And
Certainly.
I'll just note that the next section, I'll go over program application and intake, and I'll go over what the next step is after this
Okay.
pre-screen assessment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Edwin, we have two final questions here. One is, does the pre-assessment need to be done in person?
So it could be done in person, or it does not need to be. I believe that's not a requirement. But those answers do need to be answered within 24 hours of it being completed with the participant.
Okay, great, thank you. And then we have another one that says, how agencies accounted for safety for their employees, volunteers, and other participants if sex offenders and with violent background cannot be a consideration for eligibility. Any guidance would help.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, if they have a criminal background, and they're, whatever case may be, if they're a returning citizen, they're part of they're trying to enter society. Again, it's hard to say, I guess it sounds like there's an assumption being made that they're going to be a hindrance to the program, and that isn't fair to the individual. There's no pre-eligibility requirement that if a person has a felony conviction that they can be denied entry to the program. Again, there are policies in place that your program needs to have in place, and those policies need to be submitted to your programmatic grant manager during onboarding. And we do have those samples in our grantee manual and the partner guide, in case you want to have some ideas, but those need to be submitted. And again, those policies need to be go over with all participants during your orientation. And again, we do have a sample orientation agenda where it mentions that. At that point, those expectations are there for each participant. And then from there, if there's an individual that isn't following policies in place for the program, at that point, you could document and their address. But again, it sounds like there's an assumption being made that I can't answer that if there isn't anything going on, so I can't answer what ifs. So, and that's my answer to that.
Okay, thank you. We have two final questions so that we can stay on our schedule. If any other questions come through, we'll try to answer those privately. But the last two questions is, will not having a high school diploma disqualify a participant from the program? And what if we had done a pre-assessment before we had access or training in IWRs?
Okay, so yes, not having a high school diploma automatically disqualifies the participant from entering the program unless they have a GED or HiSET, or unless you are an approved high school program. And again, you would know if you're an approved high school program if you are. But if that person does not have a high school diploma, GED, or HiSET, then yes, they absolutely cannot participate in the program until they obtain that. And the next one was in regards to if they did the pre-screen assessment prior to this. Was that it?
Before they had access, yes.
I mean, it needs to be done within 24 hours, so you need to get access right away. Again, your programmatic grant manager for your organization reached out to your program administrator on who to give access to. So work with your program administrator to get IWRS access. You should already have access to it. If not, you need to work with your program administrator so they can work with your programmatic grant manager giving you access.
Thank you, and there are no further questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. All great questions. So we'll talk about program application and intakes for now. So we'll go over leverage standardized tools and templates, including the program application, interview questionnaire, acceptance letter, conditional acceptance letter, and denial letter. You'll also be able to reference the eligibility requirements for program participation, complete application and intake requirements, including the application and standardized interview in the Illinois Works reporting system, and use the Illinois Works drug test policy to keep participants safe and better prepared on the transition to RAPS and employment. So next slide, please. Okay, next one, please. All right, great. So as I mentioned, we'll review the program application intake in section 5 of the 2026 Grantee Manual. Next slide. All right, and then as a reference and a reminder where we are in the life cycle, the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program application process is designed to enroll participants who are able and ready to make a career in construction and the trades. The application process is the next logical step after the pre-screen assessment conducted during the outreach and recruitment stage of the life cycle. Once a participant is determined to be a hot lead, they can begin the application process. Next slide, please. If an applicant meets the pre-screen assessment requirements, they will need to complete a program application. It's a requirement. The application can be completed by the applicant electronically with the assistance of the outreach and recruitment coordinator, or as a paper application. Now, after completing that pre-screen assessment, IWRS will prompt the outreach and recruitment coordinator, ORC for short, to begin the application process. The application can be completed directly into IWRS, or grantees can utilize the paper version of the application available on the partner guide. Now, if a grantee opts in to use the paper version, application responses must be entered in the Illinois Works reporting system within 24 hours of the application's completion. And again, if you have not attended Illinois Works onboarding trainings, IWS does refer to Illinois Works reporting system. And again, As a friendly reminder for those new individuals to our program, there is that IWS training next week. Next slide, please. Okay, now as part of the program application, grantees will request and retain information from the applicant that will reconfirm eligibility requirements such as age, Illinois residency, a high school diploma, GED, HiSET. The application will also request information that will not disqualify the applicant from participating, but will be important for grantees to consult the participant on or offer referral to need services. Again, so the lack of driver's license, social security number, reliable transportation, or drug testing do not qualify participants, but will be relevant when applying for DOL registered RAPs. So, such as age, that is an eligibility requirement. Participants must be at least 18 years old to enroll into the Illinois Works Peer Apprenticeship Program. Again, only a grantee approved by the Office of Illinois Works to operate a high school-based pre-apprenticeship program may enroll participants under the age of 18. And again, you will know by this point if you are approved high school-based pre-apprentice program. However, all participants must be 18 or older upon completion of the program. Now, grantees must obtain and complete participants' file documentation, such as a driver's license, state ID, birth certificate, along with uploading to IWRS. And this includes state of Illinois residents. Participants must be must be a resident of the state of Illinois when they apply to the Illinois Works Peer Apprenticeship Program. Grantees must obtain and upload into IWRS documentation showing they are residents of Illinois. This include driver's license, state ID, City of Chicago ID card, utility bill or phone bill, etc. Now the next eligibility requirement. There was a question earlier about high school diploma, GED, or HiSET. Participants again must have at least a high school diploma, GED, or HiSET prior to entering the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Only specific approved high school-based grantees may enroll individuals who are actively enrolled in their high school, who are actively earning their high school diploma. And again, by this point, you will know if that is your organization. Now, grantees are required to upload a copy of the participant's high school diploma, GED, or HiSET certificate, or the transcript to the Illinois Works reporting system. The high school diploma, GED, HiSET certificate must include the name, addresses of the high schools attended. A high school diploma must be issued from a school recognized by responsible foreign or state government agency or a home school. The exact information included on the high school diploma may vary, but it typically includes a minimum of the student's name, the school's name, the conferral date, and a signature of school authority. Now, this is for veterans only. So veterans, as an alternative document, grantees may submit a copy of a participant's DD-214, officially DD Form 214, certificate of release or discharge from active duty, to verify that the participant's high school completion. Now, the DD-214 may only be used if all of the criteria are met. So only if the following is met, this can be utilized. The DD-214 indicates that the individual is a high school graduate or equivalent. The participant applies to a U.S. DO RAP that accepts the DD-214 as verification of high school graduation, and proof of application acceptance must be uploaded to IWRS, and the participant's high school diploma or transcript is unavailable. Again, all that three must be met. Now, you will probably experience participants from who earned a high school diploma or at another country. So grantees with students that have foreign high school diplomas or transcripts are responsible for having the diplomas evaluated for U.S. high school equivalency and the transcripts translated to English by qualified vendors. For a list of qualified vendors that perform these services, refer to the Illinois State Board of Education, ISBE, Educator License Out of Country Credential Evaluation Sources List. A link to this resource is being provided for you in the chat to provide to your potential participants. Now, grantees are required to upload a copy of participants' high school diploma, GED, HiSET certificate, or transcript to the Illinois Works Reporting System. College transcripts or college diplomas are not acceptable proof of high school completion documents. Now, we'll talk about driver's license. This is a consideration. Now, not having a driver's license does not automatically disqualify individuals from participating in the pre-apprenticeship program, but it is essential for success in the construction and building trades. As a result, participants must have a valid driver's license to successfully complete the program. If needed, participants should meet with support staff to develop a plan to secure one before programming ends. And I would like to note, it's better for you to start engaging your participants if they don't have a current driver's license early on at the beginning of the program, because sometimes it takes a while. So, that way you're not waiting until the end, and then wraparound services cannot be provided. So it's best to engage with them on that early on. A social security number, Illinois Works requests, but does not require applicants to provide a social security number. If a participant does not provide a social security number, this does not qualify them from participating in the program. However, a lack of a social security number will bar them from admittance into certain DOL wraps. So this factor should be addressed in discussing career plans with the participant. Now, when it comes to reliable transportation, a lack of reliable transportation does not automatically disqualify individuals. However, a plan should be created to ensure participants secure reliable transportation beyond the program term. And again, these aren't requirements that I'm going over now, they're just considerations, things to consider keep in mind as you're engaging with your potential participants. So drug testing candidates will be asked in the application if they're able to pass a drug screening. The grantees must have the ability to administer or send participants for drug testing if required based on criteria outlined in the grantee manual. Now, failing a drug test does not disqualify candidates from the program. However, testing positive may make a transition to a DOL wrap more difficult. The grantee should consult the participant on the potential impact in the system, the potential wraparound services, and how they can, get some supports with that. Now, English proficiency, this is an eligibility requirement. Participants should be able to be actively participate in training in English. If participants do not believe they can participate in English, grantees should refer the applicant to a partner that can assist them in increasing their English proficiency, such as adult ESL class, as an example. The time availability, again, this is an acceptance requirement. Participants must be available to participate in all the required pre-apprenticeship instruction, which includes the classroom instruction, construction lab, and job site training. Student support services and transition services are required by your program as well. And again, if an individual cannot be accepted to the program, use the referral sheet to provide referral for whatever the cases may be I outlined before. And template 8 sample applicant / participant referral form is available in the appendix of the 2026 grantee manual. All right, so next slide. So that's step 1. So now we're on step 2, the standardized interview. So once a grantee has determined the applicant is eligible for the program and has been offered relevant counseling or referrals around application considerations, the applicant will move on to the next stage of the process, the standardized interview. Now, the standardized interview allows grantees to gather additional insight into the applicant's interests, long-term goals, and what the participant hopes to gain from the pre-apprenticeship program. Now, grantees must use the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Provided Interview Questionnaire, which is Exhibit 4, available in the appendix of the 2026 Grantee Manual, and it's also available online in the Partner Guide. The interview questionnaire includes 10 questions that are worth 4 points each. The interview must be conducted by 2 staff members who record the applicant's answers and then each provide independent scores for each question. Interviewer total scores are then averaged to gain 1 score for the applicant, and the maximum average score is 40, and the minimum average score for acceptance is 32. Individuals with average score of less than 32 should not be admitted to a program unless there are significant mitigating factors. The final interview score of both interviewers' questionnaires must be scanned and uploaded into IWS. Again, we're looking at the average score of the 2 people. Okay, so we're not looking at the total, we're looking at the 2. Now, if your program chooses to enroll students with mitigating factors, these factors, as well as the reasoning for enrollment, must be documented in the applicant's IWRS profile. No more than 20% of a cohort can be admitted under the mitigating factors category. And additional information regarding this conditional acceptance will be discussed shortly. All right, so thank you for moving forward, Shiva. Here are some items to keep in mind when you're administering interviews. Nope, we're still on. Yep, thank you. Here are some items to keep in mind when you're administering the interviews. So interviews can be administered by staff members or contractors dedicated to the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Interviews can take place in person, via telephone call, or through virtual calls such as Zoom, WebEx, Google Meet, etc. Interviewers do not have to administer the interview separately. Both interviewers can be in the interview at one time, which is usually preferred to ensure that the scoring is consistent. Now, the interview sheets can only be completed by the staff member or contractor conducting the interview. Participants are not to complete an interview sheet. Only staff members, contractors are to be recorded on the sheet. All right, now we can move to the next slide, please, Shiva. So now step 3, enrollment decision. So once applicants have completed their applications and interview, your admissions team must make the final enrollment decision. Enrollment decision should be accompanied with a formal letter from your program to the applicant that clearly communicates the enrollment decision. So we have full acceptance, and full acceptance is for applicants who have met all the requirements of the program and received a 32 or higher, again, average score on their standardized interview, or lower score but are being accepted under the mitigating factors. And we do have a template in the grantee manual. It's template 9, enrollment decision sample letter for acceptance. There is conditional acceptance. Conditional acceptance is for applicants who met or have the willingness and ability to meet all the program requirements by the conclusion of the program. Applicants must receive a score of 32, again average or higher, on their standardized interview, or lower score but are being accepted under the mitigating factors category. One reason for conditional acceptance may be a lack of driver's license, but have a commitment and ability to procure one, or pending a copy of their high school transcript. Could be that they indeed did complete high school, but they're just working with their high school registrar's office to secure one. Now, if conditional acceptance is offered based on a lack of documentation to confirm eligibility, they're not considered enrolled and should not be enrolled in IWS until those documents have been accepted by the grantee and saved in the participant file. And again, we do have template 10, enrollment decision sample letter, as a conditional acceptance. And lastly, we do have denial. Denials for applicants who do not meet and either cannot or will not meet all program requirements. This also applies to an applicant who can meet the program requirements, but who scored a 31 or below on the standardized interview and cannot be considered under the mitigating factors category. We have a template for that as well. That's template 11, enrollment decision, sample letter denial in the grantee manual. And enrollment decision letters must be uploaded to the participant's profile in RWS, regardless if it's full acceptance, conditional acceptance, or denial. And lastly, though, this is not an actual enrollment decision. It is relevant to note the administrative withdrawal option. Can we move to the next slide, please? Sorry, sure. Thank you. So administrative withdrawals when a grantee offers acceptance to a participant and the participant commits to attend, but never attends the instruction. Administrative withdrawals do not count towards a grantee's enrollment metric. Now, those accepted to a program should be made aware of the date and time for orientation and any critical programming information, including the schedule. Now, please keep in mind there are guards against participant skimming. Participant skimming is when programs select applicants who are deemed more likely to succeed because they have less need for wraparound or supportive services. An applicant's potential wraparound and student support needs should not be considered for enrollment decision unless those needs will make them ineligible for the program. All right, now next slide, please. All right, so now I'll talk about the structure of the cohort. So the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program utilizes a cohort model for instruction. A cohort is predefined, limited group of participants engaged in an area of study under the guidance of a highly engaged trainer or instructor. Cohorts They cultivate a sense of belonging, collaborative learning, creativity, self-efficacy, and a desire to complete the program with fellow cohort members, which does impact retention. Cohorts work together in the same academic program, progress through the same academic curriculum, and complete the program together. They start and end the program at the same time. Since a cohort consists of participants in attending instruction together in the same location at the same time in the same class, more than one cohort cannot operate in the same physical space and time. Now, cohorts are limited to no more than 30 participants. Accelerated programs are limited to 30 participants per year, regardless of whether they operate one or two cohorts. And rolling enrollment allows new applicants who have been accepted into the program to start the academic experience at their point of admission. There is no hard deadline by which they need to submit the application nor deadline starts. Students are unlikely to have same academic experience nor complete the program at the same time or pace as those who are simultaneously enrolled. Now, again, the Illinois Works Peer Apprenticeship Program leverages the structure of a cohort model. Rolling enrollment is not an approved Illinois Works approach. Grantees must adhere to the start and end dates on their approved work plan. Any participant enrolled after the first day of instruction, post-orientation requires grant manager pre-approval. All right, so now the next slide, please. All right, so now we'll talk about drug testing. So as mentioned in the last section, candidates will be asked in the application if they are able to pass drug screening. Grantees must have the ability to administer or send participants for drug testing if required, based on criteria outlined in the grantee manual. Now again, failing a drug test does not disqualify candidates from the program. However, testing positive may make transitioning them into a DOL RAP more difficult. A grantee should consult the participant on the potential impact. Now, there are two major reasons why this is important during the program. Now, for one, due to the nature of the training space, including construction labs or worksite experiences, it is imperative for safety reasons of the participants that they are not under the influence or substances that can impair their performance or may result in harm of themselves or others. And number two, if a participant is planning to go to a DO RAP specifically or any other construction site, generally drug use can cause them to be denied enrollment or employment. This will stunt their transition and make it difficult for them to achieve their goal in construction and the building trades. And if substances are identified in the results of a random drug test, the grantee shall first speak with the participants about their ability and willingness to stop drug use due to the impact it could have on their transition. And the grantee should consult the participant on the impact of their choice that will have on their acceptance to a DO RAP or overall in the construction employment. Now, if a grantee identifies that a participant is or has attended the program under the influence and therefore puts themselves or others at risk, the grantee may take disciplinary action up to program dismissal based on their established dismissal policy. And again, that dismissal policy is one that needs to be you need to go over with your programmatic grant manager during your onboarding. All right. So I know that was a lot of information. Next slide, please. Now we are at the end of this section. So before we move to the next one, are there any questions? If there is, please put them in the chat or unmute your line.
Edwin, so
Yeah.
we do have several questions, and for the sake of time, I would like to ask if one of our grant managers could answer them privately so that we can continue the presentation.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that works for me.
All right, thank you.
All right, great. So those questions that you have in the chat, someone will respond to them. I'll coordinate with my colleagues on how we will answer those. All right, so we can move to the next section, and the next section will be delivered by my colleague, Shar.
Thank you, Edwin. Great job on presenting all of this wonderful information for our grantees. So we are now at section 5, program application. By the end of this section, you'll be able to leverage standardized tools and templates, including the program application, interview questionnaire, acceptance letter, conditional acceptance letter, and denial letter. You'll also be able to reference the eligibility requirements for program participation, complete application and intake requirements, including the pre-screen assessment application and standardized interview with the Illinois Works reporting system. You'll also be able to use the Illinois Works drug test policy to keep participants safe and better prepare them to transition into registered apprenticeship programs and employment. You will be able to describe the importance and tasks related to the intake process and building rapport, and integrate DIBE and the 6 core values into all elements of your program's application and intake process. Next slide, please. So we're going to stay into section 5 of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship 2026 Grantee Manual, and we're going to review intake. Next slide, please. Following the acceptance, participants will move out of the intake process. The intake process will move into the intake process. Sorry. The intake process should focus on intake staff and case managers, wraparound service coordinators, and meeting with participants one-on-one. This is going to be very important with rapport building. You're going to assess participants' needs and establish wraparound supports because you need to address them through the wraparound service assessment. Next slide. The intake meetings will serve as a key moment in building a positive cohort culture. It's important to remember that the intake meeting will be the first time program staff will be interacting with the individuals as a pre-apprenticeship program participant. During this intake meeting, grantees will explain wraparound services and conduct the wraparound service assessment. A detailed description of the wraparound service assessment and available services will be provided in the next section. This meeting should really set the tone for the overall program, and it's critically important that participants see and feel the DIBE components as well as aspects of the core values. Just a reminder, DIBE is diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. The intake meeting should take place before instruction or the intake meeting should take place before instruction or can be combined with an orientation day. And we'll cover that in a later session. Next slide, please. Building rapport with participants. Rapport is the creation of a professional relationship that features mutual understanding and connection that results in a trusting relationship between the program instructors, staff, and the program participants. Building rapport is essential in creating program culture that fosters belonging, inclusion, and collaboration. Intake meetings are an ideal space for your program staff to begin establishing rapport with participants. When participants feel they have trust and can trust those around them, they more effectively engage in instruction, support services, and career transitions. The ability to build rapport with participants is a skill like any other. It can be learned and it can be improved over time. Next slide, please. Using Mentimeter, please answer the following question. What technique do you or will you use to build rapport with your program participants? So when you're, very good, check-ins, that's a good one. Transparency. Face-to-face check-ins. Thank you. Keep them coming. Authenticity. Regular meetings. In-person meetings to establish great communication, one-on-ones, informal get-to-know-you meetings to build trust and show care, meetings, face-to-face check-ins. Okay, those are all good. Understanding of barriers, assuring trust, constructive. Can you scroll up for me, please? Okay, thank you. Constructive conversation methods, one-on-one check-ins, reminding them it's okay and safe to be vulnerable so we can figure out best ways to help. Intentional and frequent communication in several different modalities, listening to the participants, consistency and follow through, open lines of communication, consistency. These are all very good and very true. Creating a safe space, deep breathing breaks. Game activities that engage conversation. These are really good. You all are getting ready. These are all amazing ideas to build rapport with your participants. Some that just, are so simple you may just not even acknowledge as remembering participants' names, knowing their names. So when you see them, you can address them by their name. That's just something that can build rapport. Also, just be prepared for your interactions with them. If they're going to be coming in for instruction or things like that, you know, already be ready to have a conversation, find common experiences or opinions. We talked about listening, but actively listening, and be aware of their body language. If you see a shift, or you see that there's a difference, you can be aware of that. But thank you all for all of your engagement here. Okay, so we're going to go back to the presentation in the next slide. Are there any questions about this section before we proceed? I know there's some interaction happening in the chat, but if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and we can go ahead.
So there are no questions in the chat with this section.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we're moving on to section 6, which is discussing participant wraparound services. And by the end of section 6, you'll be able to complete a wraparound service assessment and deliver wraparound services, provide additional support for participants with complex needs, comply with Illinois Works guidance for performance-based stipends, provide student support services, track participants' attendance, academic performance, and respond to students' alerts in the Illinois Works reporting system, develop policies for makeup post assessments and sessions, comply with Americans with Disabilities Act requirements, and integrate DIBE and the 6 core values into all elements of your program's wraparound into student support services. We're going to take a look at section 6, wraparound services of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship 2026 Grantee Manual. Next slide, please. Assessing participants' needs for wraparound services is a critical part of the intake process. Wraparound services support that addresses non-academic needs to reduce or eliminate barriers for entrance and success in DOL registered apprenticeship programs. These can include an array of options. Participants must opt into a wraparound service. They cannot be assumed or imposed. The opt-in model requires participants to meet with a wraparound services coordinator one-on-one to establish services during the program, while also developing a plan to address these needs long-term. There is a need to address the long-term goals as well, and not only just make sure they complete the pre-apprenticeship program. We want to make sure that we're looking at them for all of their needs, concerns that we can support them with to remove and reduce barriers. Next slide. So you're introduced to wraparound service assessments at the end of the last module, but we'll take a deeper dive here. This assessment must be completed with each participant as a part of the intake process and in face-to-face format with the wraparound services coordinator. Keep in mind, the staff's role is to offer, not assign services. Participants must opt in. This assessment is completed during intake. However, participants' needs may change throughout the program. As a result, participants can opt in or opt out of wraparound services at any point during their active enrollment in the program. If a participant chooses to opt in to a new service, the service can be manually added to the participant's wraparound service goal in IWRS. In the upcoming IWRS sessions, we're going to instruct you on how to add wraparound services to the participant's goal in the system. Grantees must offer internally through partnerships each of the following wraparound services: transportation costs, childcare, family member care, technology assistance for virtual learning, broadband and hardware, driver's education fees, financial literacy, and digital literacy. A detailed description of the service, a recommended guiding question, and the allowable cost for each service is available in your grantee manual. It is possible that there are necessary and reasonable costs that are needed to support participants that are beyond the identified services above. These services can be fulfilled through referrals, leverage resources, or in some cases, Illinois Works grant funding. If you want to allocate Illinois Works grant funding, the support service must first be submitted for approval to your your grant manager. Only after approval can the grantee proceed to add the service to IWRS and provide the service to the participant. The request may also require a budget modification. The grantee manual provides assistance with identifying specific programs and/or services to help remove barriers to success. See Table 12, participant barrier and potential partners to assist in overcoming barriers, and Table 13, other participant barriers and potential partners to assist in overcoming barriers. Grantees can provide wraparound services internally through contractors, partners, or through their referral network. Illinois Works has developed Exhibit 15 Wraparound Services Plan to ensure that grantees have coverage of all the previously named services. This tool lists each wraparound service and designates if this will be provided by the grantee or an alternate organization. Grantees should complete these with the name of the alternate organization so staff are aware of who to connect or refer participants to when they opt into a service. Next slide. So using Mentimeter, answer the question on the screen. What partnerships have you established to help provide wraparound services? So have you made any partnerships with community organizations, any resources, any entities to support your wraparound services for your participants? If you don't want to put it into Mentimeter, you can come off of mute. Okay, community health clinics, community activities, reentry organizations, childcare, small business resources, church organizations, housing support, community activities, mental health support, small business resources, food banks, food pantries. Well, we see childcare is the largest one. And so you all understand the importance of someone watching the children while they're in their program. Transportation solutions, faith-based organizations, City of Chicago and state. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss any. Non-for-profit agencies, community resource fairs. So these are all really good. So continue, and if you see some up here that you haven't reached out to, maybe take, a note of some of these that you can reach out in your community for your program to support wraparound services. Very good. Daycare. Trying to make sure I'm not missing any. These are all good. All right, thank you so much. Great job, everyone. So we're gonna go back to the presentation and next slide. Performance-based stipends. In addition to providing wraparound services, programs are required by the Illinois Works Jobs Program Act to provide stipends to all participants for instructional hours. Stipends are a payment made to trainee pre-apprentice program participants for living expenses and are designed to ensure that participants can maintain financial solvency throughout the tenure in the program. Although the stipend is not a wage, it is considered taxable income. Therefore, participants should fill out a W-9 before stipend payments are paid. Orientation is a good time to have participants fill out a W-9 form for tax purposes. It is important to remember that stipends are not wages and program participants are not employees. All grantees must comply with the Illinois Works performance-based stipend policy. Do not use wage equivalent language in your program, promotional materials, or with participants. A copy of the policy can be found in the appendix of the current Illinois Works grantee manual. Lack of stipend payments, inadequately following the stipend policy, or participants' complaints related to stipends will most likely trigger a field monitoring visit by Illinois Works staff or an audit by DCEO's Office of Accountability. Next slide, please. All policies must include the following items. Grantees must provide stipends up to $14.50 per instructional hour. Instructional hours are defined as training time spent in a classroom, construction lab, or doing worksite practicums. Stipend amounts must be the same for all instructional activities. Stipends may not be paid for hours spent on wraparound services, student support services, transition services, or during follow-up. Stipends may not be paid for asynchronous instruction. Instructional activities that qualify for stipend payouts include orientation up to 4 hours as needed, providing the participant attends the entire orientation. Stipends can only be provided to participants. Participants must be actively enrolled in Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship training programs. Now, it is a grantee discretion regarding paying for makeup hours. Stipends must be reduced if a participant does not meet or exceed attendance and performance measures. Participants are required to maintain an attendance rate of 80% or higher and score 70% or higher on module post assessments. Not meeting these thresholds should result in a percentage-based reduction in stipends. Each grantee is expected to use the Illinois Works stipend policy or develop one of their own. If grantees opt to develop their own stipend policy, it must meet or exceed the Illinois Works policy. Keep in mind, if you choose to implement an alternate policy, it must be submitted to Illinois Works for pre-approval. Grantees should provide a 1099 form to each participant earning stipends over $600, making it essential for all participants to complete a W-9 before stipends are paid. Next slide. Are there any questions before we proceed to the next section? Well, we're going to take a break after this section, but are there any questions?
Yes, I do see a couple. This one maybe is something that was missed earlier. It says, has there been any updates on being able to give gas cards to our students as a wraparound service?
So there is there's no update. We are not allowed to provide gas cards through Illinois Works funding for the participants.
Thank you. And then the last question is, what is the financial penalty policy for less than 80% attendance
So that would be
or
you
70%
would
passing?
Okay, so when you are creating your stipend policy, you will put in place what those penalties will be. And that's why we have those things submitted to your grant manager prior to your approval during administrative onboarding. So the financial penalty is going to be based on a few things like what your stipend amount is, and so that will vary. I would speak to your grant manager to get a clear understanding for your program what that penalty will be.
Thank you for that, Shar. So it looks like we are
Front doorbell.
completing this session. And so we'll take a 5-minute break and return at about, what do we have, 11:14, 11:19. Thank you, everybody. Welcome back, everyone. We'll be starting shortly.
All right. So we're going to continue in section 6, participant wraparound services and student support services. In this section, we're going to talk about providing student support services, track participants' attendance, academic performance, and respond to student alerts in the Illinois Works reporting system, develop policies for makeup post-assessments and sessions, comply with American Disabilities Act, ADA requirements, and integrate DIBE and the 6 core values into all elements of your program's wraparound and student support services. Next slide. We're going to stay in section 6 and continue on to student support services. Next slide, please. Student support services are supports that address academic needs. Unlike wraparound services, some of these supports are mandatory for participants based on challenges related to attendance or performance. The distinction between support services and wraparound services are student support services are for academic needs and wraparound services are for non-academic needs. While participants may opt into services such as tutoring for math, reading, or specific instruction, other services such as making up hours for missed courses or retaking assessments after failing are mandatory to complete the program. Next slide, please. Student support services can be provided on a mandatory or voluntary basis. Student support services are mandatory when a participant does not meet the required attendance or post-assessment thresholds. For participants to successfully complete the pre-apprenticeship program, they must have 80% or higher attendance per module. Certain modules may require 100% attendance, such as OSHA 10 construction. There's a 70% or higher score requirement for post-assessment per module as well. If a student drops below attendance or performance thresholds, they're required to make up hours or retake post-assessments. You must have these requirements outlined in the participant's commitment agreement. Student support services can also be voluntary if participants request additional academic supports, such as tutoring, more time to take tests, or environmental changes to support their test taking. When taken into consideration with stipends and transition service expenses, Illinois Works considers this supportive service packages to be a barrier reduction fund. While the barrier reduction funds are to support the participants, only the stipends can be paid directly to participants. All other payments to support wraparound services, student support services, and transition services must be paid directly by the grantee to the vendor. No direct participant reimbursement using Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship funding is allowed. The above point is very important. You cannot make direct payment or reimbursements to participants. If any of these support services are needed, either due to dropping or below one of the thresholds above or voluntarily, the student support service coordinator, can you go back? Thank you. The student support service coordinator must add the support service to the participant's IWRS profile. This will be discussed in more detail later in this session and in the IWRS webinar sessions over the coming weeks. It is the expectation of Illinois Works that all training modules have a corresponding attendance roster completed by participants and signed by the instructor. Excuse me. The Illinois Works 2026 Grantee Manual provides Template 21 sample Illinois Works attendance roster in the appendix. Rosters are to be uploaded to IWRS after each training module has been completed. The upcoming IWRS session will instruct you on how to enter attendance and student support services in IWRS. Next slide, please. Participants are to be present for their scheduled training and work-based sessions. Regular attendance and participation are essential to student success. Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship grantees are required to track all training attendance of participants using an approved attendance roster. These attendance rosters will be used to confirm the accurate reporting of attendance and appropriate e-payment of stipends. The roster should be signed and dated by all instructors and trainers and staff responsible for IWRS reporting or data entry. Training, curriculum, and dates should be accurately reported, not including break and lunch times. Attendance rosters must be uploaded to IWRS at the end of each training module. The Illinois Works attendance roster features, but is not limited to, the following characteristics. Each training module must have an attendance roster exclusively for that module. Participants must acknowledge the attendance required by signing each attendance roster. All information must be accurately reported, and attendance times cannot include breaks or lunch. Rosters must be signed and dated by all instructors and trainers. Program administrators or program managers must confirm the accuracy of each attendance roster by signing and dating each page of each roster. Attendance rosters must be uploaded to IWRS at the completion of each training module. Grantees that wish to use alternate attendance rosters different from the one prescribed by this guidance must submit the attendance roster to Illinois Work for approval prior to use. Alternate templates must still include the components required by the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship attendance roster template and guidance as outlined above. Next slide, please. All modules except orientation must feature a scored post-assessment at the end of the module to ensure that participants have successfully met learning objectives. Each post-assessment must have a score of 0 to 100%, except for orientation. Post-assessments cannot be pass-fail. Participant scores must be immediately recorded in IWRS to track student progress and to alert academic support staff of subpar performance. If a participant scores less than 70% on a post-assessment, the IWRS system will add a red flag to the participant's profile. As noted a moment ago, orientation does not require a score post-assessment to be administered. Instead, it is the only training module where pass-fail is accepted. Participants should receive 100% on their training module in IWRS when they have completed the wraparound service assessment, orientation career assessment, and commitment agreement, and all of these documents have been uploaded to IWRS. Next slide, please. Student support service coordinators are responsible for identifying the need for coordinating and ensuring the successful delivery of student support services. This staff has access to a robust IWRS dashboard and suite of reports that will allow them to easily identify participants with red flag alerts. These alerts are meant to signal that participants need additional assistance. If the participants' red flags are related to academic needs such as excessive absences, missing or failing post-assessments, or struggling with key lessons, the student support service coordinator must add necessary support services to the participant's IWRS profile that the participant must complete to regain good standing in the program. These services must outline dates for makeup sessions or post-assessment retakes, referrals for tutoring services, or provide longer time periods for participants to take post-assessments. Once delivered, these services should be marked as successfully complete in IWRS. In addition to matching the participant with necessary academic supports. The student support service coordinators should partner with the wraparound service coordinator to address any barriers that are preventing the participant from successfully engaging in the program. We are going to have a Mentimeter question that is coming up. So next slide, please. What partnerships have you established to help provide student support services? I know it takes a second for them to kick in sometimes. Alternative high school, master's education students. Is that for tutoring? Okay, probably. Mentorship groups. Reentry programs and their resources. Nonprofit services tutoring. Community organizations. Financial literacy, remedial learning. Those are good. Universities. You all have some good partnerships established. Probation and parole, local agency, JC Union. And once again, if you see someone here that you haven't thought of, you can take notes to reach out to some of these yourself. City colleges for GED, experienced volunteers, colleges. These are all good. Well, thank you. These are some amazing partnerships, and I know you're going to have more and more as you continue on working with your participants and really seeing what the needs are for them. Thank you. These are wonderful established partnerships to have for this program. Next slide, please. All support services are required to be tracked in IWRS on each participant's profile. Wraparound services will be automatically added to a participant's profile based on their responses to the wraparound services assessment. If during the assessment they opt into services, the system will populate that service on their profile. Wraparound services may only be provided when a participant is enrolled in the program. A participant that does not complete the program during the approved work plan dates of a cohort due to needing to successfully complete all training modules may be considered enrolled for 2 weeks after the cohort end date only, and they may be provided, wraparound services if necessary to successfully complete all training modules. Graduated participants are not allowed to receive wraparound services. Student support services will need to be added manually based on need. Unlike wraparound services, student support services are often triggered by circumstance such as a missed day or failing a post-assessment, among others. As a result, grantees will need to manually enter these services on the participant profile when needed. On the screen is an image of the IWRS system showing how wraparound and student support services are displayed in the system. More in-depth information on how to add and manage support services will be provided in the IWRS in-person sessions taking place in the coming weeks. Next slide. The Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities. Illinois Works programs are ethically and legally responsible for adhering to administrative requirements according to the ADA. Your program must have a designated ADA coordinator, provide public notice, have an established grievance policy, conduct self-evaluation, develop a transition plan regarding accessibility. So make sure that these are some of the things that you're working on as you're getting your program started, that you have these components. Next slide, please. Are there any questions before we proceed to the next section? If so, you can unmute your line or post your question in the chat.
It looks like we don't have any questions in the chat, Shar.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And if you do have questions that you weren't able to ask or would like answered, you can email them to ceo.illinoisworks@illinois.gov. Thank you so much. And I'm going to pass this over to my colleague, Monica.
Thank you, Shar. I appreciate that. Okay, everyone, the next section is training, instruction, and certification. So let's talk about the objectives for this session. We're going to explain training expectations within the scope of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, how to deliver an effective program orientation, how to utilize required tools, including the Career Assessment and Commitment Agreement, how to comply with the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship curriculum requirements, how to consider additional certifications or training modulars that might be relevant for your target population, how to apply the Illinois Essential Employability Skills Framework to your program soft skills, instructional hours, how to incorporate diverse learning modalities based on participant needs and program expectations, how to utilize best practices to evaluate a training curriculum, and last but not least, how to integrate DIBE and the 6 core values into all elements of your program's training and instruction. Does anyone have any questions before we jump into Section 7, Training, Instruction, and Certifications? Oh, okay, let's get started then.
I think we have one question, Monica. It says,
Okay.
are there any simulations showing how to enter the student information in the system? Not sure if I'm.
No, that's fine. I would say stay tuned until next Wednesday. We're having an all-day IWRS training session in person in DeKalb, and you'll get better than a simulation. You will actually have the opportunity to log in and practice entering data yourself. So just stay tuned until next week, and you'll get way more information than you bargained for. Okay, if there's nothing else, Shiva, next slide, please. Okay. So you all were chosen as grantees because you successfully demonstrated the ability to provide pre-apprenticeship training and to prepare program participants for employment in the construction industry. Program instruction is the central tool used to implement the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. During instruction is when grantees will train participants, prepare participants, and empower participants. So why training? Next slide. Training is a process that aims to increase knowledge, develop skills, impact attitudes, and/or influence behaviors in an individual to accomplish a specific job, task, or goal. Training is often focused on business needs and driven by time-critical business skills and knowledge. The goal of training is to impact and improve performance. This is an important distinction from teaching, which focuses on information dissemination, knowledge acquisition, and learning. The distinction can be summarized as theory, education, and information versus skill building, performance, and practical application. Next slide. Your program is expected to offer experiential training, also known as development by doing. There are several approaches and modalities that leverage experiential training. Some examples include work-based learning, small group lab work, on-the-job training, and practicum. We will take a deeper dive regarding experiential training, learning modalities, and instructional strategies during the developing and implementing a pre-apprenticeship curriculum and instruction session, which will take place later in the year. But experiential training typically occurs in or at the following: during construction laboratory, which is where a facility, where you utilize a facility that provides controlled conditions in which participants can practice a task or skill, or on the job site, which is a location or area where construction work is taking place. Job sites are not controlled like construction laboratories, so that's important to note. Okay, staying in scope, next slide. It is critically important that programs stay in scope. The overarching focus of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program is to fund programs that target underrepresented populations and that successfully transition participants into DOL registered apprenticeship programs in construction and the building trades. Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program funds should be used within the scope of the goal. Pre-apprenticeship curriculums must be a minimum of 183 hours in instruction and should not exceed 300 hours of instruction unless that has been previously approved by the Office of Illinois Works. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program requires a total of 40 hours of employability training for each participant. The 40 hours must include 4 hours of harassment prevention and 4 hours of diversity and inclusion in construction. It's important to understand that a participant's program completion is connected to the total number of hours that are determined to be necessary for the program. So the hours may possibly vary amongst programs. So required instruction. Instruction must include the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program orientation. That orientation can last up to 4 hours, in which we will pay participants a stipend to participate and complete that orientation. An introductory course to construction and the trades is required, and construction math is required at 40 hours. Just as a point of clarification, the NCCER Instruction to Construction Math, if you happen to be using that curriculum, offers 10 hours of instruction. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program minimum required standard for math curriculum is 40 hours. Therefore, 30 hours of supplemental math instruction will be required to meet the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program minimum standard. Some have asked, so the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program recommends that grantees use the NCCER supplemental math course, which is applied mathematics. So that's important to note that if you are using the NCCER curriculum, you need to have 40 hours, but only 10 will be the NCCER construction math, and the other 30 will need to be supplemental math. Other certifications that may be presented: Trades Future MC3, NCCER, ICCB, or other construction curriculum approved by the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program may be utilized. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program requires that grantees utilize the MC3 Multi-Craft Core Curriculum Edition with the modulars and the hours as approved below. And so what we're going to discuss here are the MC3 Multi-Craft Core Curriculum hours, which are Unit 1, Construction Industry and Trades Orientation. That is 16 hours minimum. And all of the hours that I mentioned will be the minimum that, that are allowed through the MC3 curriculum. Unit 2, Tools and Materials, they have an 8-hour minimum. Unit 3, Construction Health and Safety, there's a 20-hour minimum. Unit 4, Blueprint Reading, there's an 8 or 16-hour minimum. Unit 5, Construction Math, that unit, if you are using MC3, meets the requirements for Illinois Works, as it has a 40-hour minimum requirement. Unit 6, Heritage of the American Worker, there's an 8-hour minimum. Unit 7, Diversity in the Construction Industry, there is a 12-hour minimum there. And the sexual harassment and diversity in construction that I mentioned just a slide ago are included in those 12 hours. So those do not need to be separate modulars. Unit 8, green construction, there's an 8-hour minimum. In Unit 9, financial literacy, there's either a 4 or an 8-hour minimum for those. Programs can add in additional training modulars, and of course, work-based learning experiences are required as a part of the Illinois Works program. All core modulars must follow the multi-craft core curriculum's minimum instructional hours as I just described. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program requires that grantees utilizing the NCCER core 6th edition follow the following curriculum minimum hours. Okay, just making sure there wasn't a slide for that. Okay, so basic safety, which is the construction site safety orientation, there's a 12.5-hour minimum. Introduction to construction math, go back just for a moment, Shiva. Introduction to construction math, there's a 10-hour minimum, which I discussed in detail a little bit ago. Introduction to hand tools has a 12.5-hour minimum. Introduction to power tools, a 10-hour minimum. Introduction to construction drawings, 10 hours. Introduction to basic rigging, 7.5-hour minimum. And I understand that that is described as an elective course in NCCER, but Introduction to Basic Rigging is required by Illinois Works if you choose to use the NCCER curriculum. This basic communication skills, a 7.5-hour minimum. Same for basic employability skills, 7.5 hours. Introduction to Materials Handling has a 5-hour minimum, and Build Your Future in Construction, which is the introductory course, I believe, has a 2.5-hour minimum. So all core modulars must follow NCCER's minimum instructional hours as defined above. OSHA 10-hour construction is required, as is first aid and CPR. Other nationally recognized certifications may be included if needed. They're soft skills based on the Illinois Employability Skills Framework, which may range between 32 and 40 hours. And within those 40 hours, harassment prevention and diversity and inclusion in construction are each required at a minimum of 4 hours each. Test-taking skills is a requirement for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program at 4 hours, and then work-based learning or job site learning can take place in between 10 and 50 hours. Illinois Works requires instructors to meet the following qualifications: a minimum of 3 to 5 years of professional experience in the area of instruction that they are providing training, and they must have an active Illinois Works instructor training certifications. It's important to note that instructors that have received equivalent training to the Illinois Works instructor training may request a waiver. Next slide, please. Okay. So, your 183 minimum instructional hours may not include wraparound services, student support services, transition services, or follow-up activities. Instructional hours also do not include complementary education, such as GED courses, ACT preparatory training, or college fairs. So are we clear in what is not included as instructional hours? And if someone happens to have a question about something they were considering, certainly feel free to add it to the chat and someone will respond if that would be included as an instructional hour. Let's go on, Shiva, to the next slide, please. Let's talk about the orientation. So orientation is a requirement for all participants and should be facilitated on the first day of instruction. The goals of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program orientation are to welcome participants, communicate expectations and requirements, and acclimate them to the grantee's pre-apprenticeship program. Orientation is also when several critical enrollment activities take place, including the completion of the wraparound service assessment, if it has not already been completed, the orientation, career assessment, and the commitment agreement. It is important that programs develop an orientation agenda that allocates enough time to cover the required topics. And as a reminder, participants can receive up to 4 hours of stipend payments for orientation as long as they attend the full session. The agenda should be communicated to participants beforehand to create interest and to set the expectation that attending the orientation is a program requirement. Orientation should be facilitated by a team member who will be working with the participants on a daily or a near daily basis. Also, as noted in our previous discussion of post-assessment requirements, orientation is considered a training service, meaning stipends can be paid for those hours. If orientation is considered a training service, grantees will need to provide a post-assessment score in IWRS. This module is the only one that is considered pass-fail. Participants will receive a 100% as long as the wraparound service assessment, orientation career assessment, and the commitment agreement are completed and are entered or uploaded into IWRS. And you may reference the grantee manual and see template 16 for a sample copy of an orientation agenda. Okay, let's talk about the orientation career assessment next. Okay, so during the orientation process, each participant must complete an orientation career assessment. This career assessment tool captures key information regarding the participant's career readiness, their primary and secondary career goals, and their anticipated timeline for transitioning to a career once the program has concluded. During orientation, this assessment should be completed by each participant in a group setting using a hard copy version of the assessment. And if you are to check your 2026 grantee manual, Exhibit 5 is the career assessment, so you can find it there. Based on the participants' stated goals in the career assessment, academic support staff and instructors must work together to develop a personalized action plan tailored to the specific needs of each participant. The orientation career assessment must be entered into the Illinois Works reporting system within 24 hours after the participant completes it during orientation and used by staff to build out a career plan for each participant. The orientation career assessment is available on the intake tab of each participant's IWRS profile. The career assessment tool will be completed twice during the pre-apprenticeship program. Once during orientation, as we just discussed, and again 3 to 4 weeks prior to the participant completing the program. To distinguish these, one is called the orientation career assessment, and that one's done at the beginning of programming, and the other is the pre-transition career assessment, which is done towards the end of programming. The pre-transition career assessment will be discussed in the next section as well. Next slide, please. The commitment agreement. So a pre-apprenticeship training program commitment agreement is a written agreement between the participant and your program that clarifies the participant's rights, obligations, and pre-apprenticeship training conditions. Commitment agreements must be signed by a grantee staff member and the participant, then uploaded into IWRS for each participant in each cohort. And it should be noted that those would be original signatures, so we don't do stamped signatures for the commitment agreements. In addition to outlining basic items about the program, such as the date, the time, and location of the program, this agreement outlines the expectations of the program, such as the attendance and post-assessment requirements. Additionally, and this part is very important, this agreement serves as a Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act waiver, which is also referred to as FERPA. So a FERPA waiver, which is a federal law that affords participants who are 18 years old or who have entered a post-secondary institution at any age the right to have some control over the disclosure of personally identifiable information from their educational records. Without a signed commitment agreement that includes a FERPA waiver, your program will not be able to track participant data in IWRS, and more importantly, Illinois Works will not be able to report on that data. And in the grantee manual as Exhibit 6, you may find the pre-apprenticeship training program commitment agreement. Super important to know. An unwillingness of the participant to sign the commitment agreement or share their information with Illinois Works will automatically disqualify them from participation in the program. So if you need additional information, please feel free to Google FERPA for more information. Next slide. So we talked about the minimum required certifications, but given the needs of your program participants, their craft areas of interest, and their post-program goals, additional certifications might be relevant. Additional certifications and trainings that you may want to consider, but you are not limited to, are flagger certification. And of course, flaggers protect project personnel and provide safe, courteous, and authoritative directions to traffic passage through the work area. Upon successful completion of the course, participants will receive an ATSSA flagger certification. Now, the flagger certification can be a valuable addition to a pre-apprenticeship resume, but it is important to note that compensation for this isolated task is at the lower end of the compensation scale for the construction and building trades. Women are 50.8% of the U.S. population, yet only 4% of the construction and building trades professions. However, for construction flaggers, women make up 36.8% of all flaggers. Given the goal of equity, please be cautious not to disproportionately point women in this direction as an isolated occupational craft area. So we want to, there may be some additional employability skills that are required. So define and clarify the essential employability skills and provide a standard for the state of Illinois. So this framework comprises 4 primary skills, which are personal ethics, work ethics, teamwork, and communication, each with a subset of behaviors or actions. So employability skills are can be an additional certification, and then or consideration, and then DIBE, which is diversity, inclusion, belonging, and equity. So the 2026 Grantee Manual provides recommendations in Table 14 about employability skills, and also you can find in the manual some strategies to address equity, including support for minority-led organizations. So there you can find additional information about discrimination within the workplace, sexism within workplaces, bullying, and harassing. Okay, next slide. Okay, we talked a little bit about the minimum requirements for the curriculum. Now let's talk about curriculum approval. Your program must submit your pre-apprenticeship curriculum for approval prior to implementation. The Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program curriculum approval process has 2 components. There's the submission of Exhibit 10, the final curriculum form, and then the entry of the approved curriculum into the Illinois Works Reporting System, or IWRS. The final curriculum form is generated by your Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program Grant Manager based on the curriculum submitted to Illinois Works during the grant application process and any subsequent meetings you may have had with your grant manager. The form will be sent to program administrators and is used to confirm training service titles, hours per modular, and confirmation that a student evaluation or a post-assessment will be provided per training service, so for each one of them. Upon approval, the Illinois Works Grant Manager will upload a copy of the form into the grantee's provider information page in IWRS. After adding training services to the grantee's provider information page, the Illinois Works grant manager will send a signed copy of the final curriculum form to the grantee for your records. And it is important to stress that following the approved curriculum is super important. For one reason is that the total hours of required instruction are a part of your grant agreement and also a part of your budget. And so these things cannot be changed without a grant modification. So it's really important that you follow the curriculum as it has been approved. And template 17 provides a sample of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program curriculum, which I know you all have seen and have utilized. Next slide. Okay, so in the Illinois Works 2026 Grantee Manual, there are additional sections on training modalities, instructional planning, and training evaluation. Here's what's important for you to know now. Instructional evaluation is a required component of your program. Illinois Works utilizes the Kirkpatrick model for training evaluation. There are 4 levels of training evaluation. Level 1 is highly recommended. Level 2, which is pre and post assessment, is required. Level 3 is not applicable, and level 4 is required through the longitudinal evaluation framework being used by the program. The ability to evaluate each level increases with complexity and difficulty with each level. And if you reference table 17 in the 2026 Grantee Manual, you can find more information there. And at some point during an upcoming technical assistance session, we will talk about how to create a level 1 and level 2 evaluation tool. Okay, next slide, please, Sheila. One more. There we go. Okay. So before we move on, we also need to talk about worksite personal protective equipment, also known as PPE. As grantees, you are in your final steps of instruction preparation, and so therefore it is essential that you also consider participant and team safety. As stated earlier in this section, it is required that participants spend time in construction laboratories and on active work sites to fulfill the experiential learning requirement of the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. To ensure all involved are safe, grantees need to plan what PPE will be required for required tasks. Okay, and so we're going to go through this somewhat quickly, but we need to make sure that each student has head protection. Each student must wear an approved hard hat at all times while on the construction site. Hard hats must be in good condition and fit properly. Students must wear safety glasses with side shields or face shields when working in areas where there's a risk of eye or face injuries. Hearing protection is important. Students must use hearing protection, which can be earplugs or earmuffs when exposed to loud noise sounds. Respiratory protection. If the construction work involves exposure to dust, chemicals, or other airborne hazards, students must wear appropriate respiratory protection as specified by safety guidelines and regulations. Hand protection, of course, includes suitable gloves. Foot protection includes steel-toed or protective-toed boots that comply with safety standards and that are appropriate for the construction work environment. And then there are back supports, which back and lumbar supports can serve as important pieces of equipment, but they are not required. And OSHA does not consider back braces to be a critical part of personal protective equipment mandated for physical jobs. So just know that back supports are not required and not necessarily recommended. And then there are tools. The tool requirements include essential hand tools like hammers, screwdrivers, wrenches, measuring tapes, levels, pencils, safety gear, power tools like drills, saws, and possibly specialized tools depending on a specific craft area. So if your budget has not been finalized and you're missing those items, those are things that you want to make sure are included as a part of your 2026 budget. Next slide, please, Shiva. Okay, so once the final curriculum form is finalized and your budget's finalized and you have all of that nice equipment, Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program grant managers will enter the approved training courses into IWRS. And of course, there's nowhere in the world you can see on that slide what that looks like, but you will get to see that up close and personal when we meet in DeKalb next week. When a participant is enrolled, these courses will auto-populate on that participant's profile and will be available for grantees to submit attendance, post-assessment scores, and upload certificates and credentials. Tracking training services in IWRS is outlined in more detail in Section 7 of the Illinois Works 2026 Grantee Manual. And again, in-depth training will be provided next week when we see you in DeKalb. Are there any questions about that section? Okay.
Questions in the chat.
Perfect. We're going to keep moving and grooving to the next section, where we're going to talk about program completion, transition services, and follow-up. And you can all see those expectations or objectives on the screen. So if you want to take a very quick look at those, we're going to talk about program completion definitions, the pre-transition career assessment. We're going to talk a little bit about transition staff and your responsibilities, outcomes, deliverables, transition and follow-up services, what is active follow-up versus long-term follow-up. We're going to talk just a little bit about the Illinois Works Bid Credit Program, and again, we will talk about DIBE and the 6 core values in our program. So next slide, please. Here, yes, we're talking about program completion, transition services, and follow-up. Next slide. So all stages of the pre-apprentice life cycle are essential to participant success. However, program completion, transition services, and follow-up are the stages of your program that allow you to start measuring your impact. Next slide. Program completion refers to the conclusion of instructional training and the beginning of transition services. For most participants, program completion will mark the end of their instruction or their training and the beginning of their transition to a registered apprenticeship program. So let's talk about the status that your participants will be in at the end of the program. Next slide, please, Shiva. So at the end of your program, there are 4 statuses available for participants. A successful completion is a participant who is in complete or complete and in transition status. This occurs when the participant has met all program requirements. Some may refer to this as graduating from the program, but this marks the participant's completion of classroom, construction lab, worksite training, and recognizes their attainment of their required certifications. And of course, that could be NCCER, Trades Future MC3, an ICCB curriculum, or another construction curriculum if it has been approved by the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. It recognizes the attainment of an OSHA 10 construction certification, first aid CPR, and that the participant has obtained a driver's license. Okay. I'm sorry. Just a moment. I'm sorry, my computer wants to restart itself, and we don't want that to happen right now. Okay. So the next status is an unsuccessful completion, which is incomplete. So some participants may be present throughout the program, but are unable to graduate because there may be additional services and tasks, such as makeup exams and makeup sessions, that must still be completed in order for them to satisfy program graduation requirements. The Student Support Services Coordinator must create an action plan for successful completion for each participant. So just important to note, it is possible to include the participant in a following cohort. Program staff should continue engagement with the participant to ensure they can return and successfully complete the program. So, of course, that's our goal. If someone's not able to initially complete the cohort, we're always hoping that they will come back within 1 calendar year from their initial program enrollment to complete. The next status is withdrawal, and not to confuse with what Edwin described earlier, being an administrative withdrawal where a participant has been invited to participate in the program, but they don't show. We're speaking of withdrawal as a participant who chooses to withdraw from the program once they have actually started it. Before a participant withdrawal is finalized, the Student Support Services Coordinator should meet with the participant one-on-one to determine if there are any wraparound or support services that can be offered to keep the participant from withdrawing. In some circumstances, additional support may help the participant change their decision to withdraw. However, that is not always the case, and grantees should seek to maintain a positive relationship with the participant, regardless of the participant's final decision. If they still choose to withdraw, conduct an exit interview using the exit interview questionnaire. This is an opportunity to gain an evaluation of the program overall, key components, and seek participant feedback. Ask the participant if follow-up contacts would be welcome. There may be a future opportunity to engage them. And I believe that is Exhibit 1 of the grantee manual, the exit interview questionnaire. And then last, we've had some questions about dismissal today. So dismissal within IWRS is also considered an incomplete. This occurs when participants fail to comply with the terms of their commitment agreement or violate program policies. You must maintain a dismissal policy that outlines a standard procedure for how, when, and why participants can be dismissed. Once a participant is dismissed, all services from the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program must be terminated through IWRS. Also, a copy of the dismissal letter must be saved in the participant's file and uploaded to IWRS. And so one additional thing that is not included here on our slide is the status of evaluated and not required. And that only happens with training services in the event that a participant enters the program with a valid pre-existing certification such as OSHA 10 or First Aid CPR. That is allowable if those certifications have been issued within the last 3 years. The grantee may waive these modulars and must document the exemption in IWRS. But again, program completion refers to the conclusion of instructional training and the beginning of transition services. Let's see here. Let's go to the next slide, which is the participant satisfaction survey. So we talked a little bit about the exit interview for participants who don't complete the program, but in keeping with Illinois Works' focus on continuous program improvement, both at a grantee and a network level, all pre-apprenticeship participants who remain engaged in the program through the end of instruction, maybe even if they did not successfully complete, will be asked to provide feedback on the program experience through a participant satisfaction survey. This survey is a requirement, and grantees need to ensure that all participants participate in the survey. The Participant Satisfaction Survey was developed by the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program in partnership with the Center for Governmental Studies at Northern Illinois University, and will be an integral part of the program evaluation process. Grantees must ensure that 75% of their graduates in each cohort complete the survey. To increase the response rate, it is expected that grantees schedule a session focused on completing the survey before the participants complete training and certainly before they graduate, because as we know, once participants graduate, sometimes it's hard to keep in touch with them. Next slide, please. Where we're going to kind of talk about keeping in touch with them in transition services. Okay, so transition services are a series of career readiness activities that serve as the final step for participants before progressing to a RAP and employment. And this is where your transition staff comes in. Next slide, please. Transition services are led primarily by the Transition Service Coordinator, or TSC. The TSC is accountable for transition and follow-up services for all graduates of the programs. While most transition services will be provided at the end of each participant cohort, the Transition Service Coordinator should be building or strengthening transition relationships throughout the program year. In fact, the Transition Service Coordinator must start engaging participants starting on the program's orientation day. Transition Service Coordinators are responsible for developing and maintaining relationships with DOL RAPs, unions, contractors, and other employment partners, among others, scheduling face-to-face meetings with participants to identify career goals using the pre-transition career assessment, assisting with or providing all transition services for participants, including helping with apprenticeship application fees, resume writing, and interview preparation, conducting follow-up with alumni, adding and maintaining graduate profiles in the Career Pathways Management Platform, the CPMP, and participating in the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program's Transition Activity Program, which includes monthly reporting and meetings designed to build the Transition Service Coordinator Network and enhance transition services. So more information about the transition service staff is available in Section 3 of the 2026 Grantee Manual. Next slide, please. The Transition Service Coordinator provides transition services guided by a transition plan, which is developed in partnership with participants and based on the information collected from the orientation career assessment. And while transition services are most active towards the end of the life cycle, transition service coordinators should start working on transition services beginning with the orientation career service, career assessment. So just really quickly think about it like you're an airline preparing for your customers to arrive and board. It's up to the customer to buy the ticket, to pack, to get to the airport, and to get to the terminal on time. However, it's the airline's responsibility to have the plane ready and waiting. So you don't want to leave your participants stranded because you did not start the transition work until it was too late. So we want to start sooner than later. And the first step or the final phase of the transition process is to conduct that pre-transition career assessment that we talked about. This finalizes the participant's transition plan, which includes facilitating job readiness sessions, resume building, and interview preparation, among others. It outlines the trades of interest and participants' job readiness needs. The plan is created in IWRS, and this plan also assists transition staff as they help participants move from pre-apprenticeship trainees to full apprentices. May I get the next slide, please? Okay, and that slide is just a bareback copy of what the transition career assessment looks like, but it can be found with the other exhibits in the back of the 2026 Grantee Manual. Okay, Shiva, will you take me to transition services? I think it may be 2 slides. Thank you. So transition services should be added to participant profiles in the IWRS and may include, but not limited to, alumni networking, mentorships, assisting with apprenticeship application fees, providing career information, resume building and writing, interview preparation, assistance with completing an apprenticeship program application, assistance with completing other applications, starting a business, a small business, maybe enrolling into a community college, or also American Job Center referrals may come out of our transition services. It is the expectation that all participants who successfully complete the program will be provided with one or more transition services that will be documented in IWRS. And of course, please see Section 8 of the Illinois Works 2026 Grantee Manual for more information. Okay, this is going to be super critically important. Each grantee is required to employ a dedicated transition service coordinator, and the required full-time equivalent is determined by the enrollment numbers specified in the organization's work plan. So you've all had this discussion. You've heard this before. You've had this discussion with your grant manager. If you have enrollments up to 30 participants, you are only required to have a 50% full-time equivalent transition service coordinator. More typical for our programs are between 31 and 60 enrollments, and at that point you would be required to have one full-time equivalent. And I don't recall that we have any grantees with more than 60 enrollments planned, but consequently, if we happen to have anybody who is looking at between 61 and 90 enrollments, you would be required to have 1.5 full-time equivalent transition services coordinators. Just real quick, if you happen to be serving more than one location, or you have 2 grants, I guess that's a better way of saying that, each one of those grants is required to have their own transition service coordinator. So in the event that you are, maybe you have 100 enrollments in one location, you would be required to have 2 full-time transition services coordinators, while if you only had 30 participants in your second location or your second grant, you would only be required to have a half-time or 50% transition service coordinator. But I know I went through that quickly, but you've all had that conversation with your grant manager, so I know you've heard that information before. All right, and then I think we're getting very close. Shiva, let's go to the Career Pathways Management Platform. Thank you. So I would like to highlight the Career Pathways Management Platform, or CPMP. The CPMP facilitates job matching for tracing the professional qualifications and trajectory of Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program graduates, and being the place for contractors to seek graduates of the Illinois Works program. It is a platform where jobs with employers who are interested in Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program graduates are advertised to. It enables fast and accurate matching and communication, and it enables your graduates to apply for the right job for them. However, the system is only as good as the data in it. Therefore, it is so important to keep graduate information current. And we will do some additional training on the Career Pathways Management Platform later on in the grant year. So as always, please refer to the partner guide and take a look at that professional development schedule. Okay, let's move to the Illinois Works Bid Credit Program, please, Shiva. The Illinois Works Bid Credit Program is the 3rd key program of the Illinois Works model. This program provides incentives to contractors to hire and retain Illinois Works graduates while they complete their DOL registered apprenticeship program. The Bid Credit Program is a unique benefit provided only to Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program graduates, making them more competitive in the labor market. Grantees can discuss the bid credit program with transition partners, especially contractors, as a benefit their graduates can bring to their companies. To be bid credit eligible, a participant must successfully complete the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program. That means that all Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program approved and required certificates and certifications have been earned. The participant has attended 80% of each of those training modulars, and they have earned at least a 70% on all modular post-assessments. Successful completion must be verified by the Office of Illinois Works. And upon successful completion of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, participants will receive an Illinois Works certification and card to provide their potential employer as evidence of their bid credit eligibility. Again, way more information is provided in the 2026 Grantee Manual. Next slide, please, Shiva. And again, just a reminder, something you all already know, at least 85% of enrolled participants must successfully complete the program, and at least 70% of those enrolled participants must transition to a DOL registered apprenticeship program to meet the expected outcomes and deliverables for the program. Okay. Last, final, let's move to the pre-apprenticeship participant life cycle follow-up. This is the final step of the pre-apprenticeship life cycle, and programs are required to conduct follow-up activities for 1 year after a participant exits the program. This step provides you with the opportunity to build a robust alumni network and to maintain a connection with the participants, and more importantly, to collect outcome and employment data. Additionally, the Illinois Works Network can begin to build data-driven best practices based on long-term data collection. So program follow-up is an essential part of the Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program, and there are many ways to regularly stay in touch with program graduates. Please show the next slide, please, Shiva, where we talk about there's surveys, focus groups, phone, text, social media, email, and of course visits. Those can all be used as follow-up for our Illinois Works graduates. Okay, Shiv, if you would move to active follow-up, please. Okay. Active follow-up denotes a contact between the transition service coordinator and program alumni on a quarterly basis for 1 year following program completion. The first year is when apprentices may be most vulnerable to dropping out of an apprenticeship program, so it is critical to keep contact with them during that time. During each follow-up contact, the transition service coordinator must complete a follow-up questionnaire, which is available electronically in IWRS, and which you will learn a lot more about as we go through the program year. Okay, beyond the first year, Illinois Works will utilize data matching and our career services team to track participants long-term for up to 10 years after their exit from the program. Next slide, please, Shiva. Okay, and so again, when we speak of long-term follow-up, the Illinois Works Career Services team is designed to help maintain connections with graduates for the purpose of helping with future transitions and to collect long-term data. So this data will be a part of a longitudinal study that will track participants up to 10 years after leaving the Illinois Works program to determine the effectiveness of pre-apprenticeship programs and the grantee's impact on individuals, communities, and the economy. Next slide, please. Follow-up services. So Illinois Works follow-up process is non-traditional and will become a part of the longitudinal study to measure program goals and participant outcomes for up to 10 years. These follow-up services are essential and integral part of the comprehensive long-term goal to simultaneously promote participants' economic independence and economic development in the state of Illinois. And again, you will learn way more about the longitudinal study later. Okay, Shiva. Okay, there we go. Active follow-up services. So some of the services that can be included, but you're not limited to, are referral to resources. The participant is referred to services offered by their programs they graduated from, other Illinois Works programs, or community programs to assist in meeting needs that have been identified. We've talked about tracking progress in the apprenticeship program and on jobs. So that continues as a part of the follow-up services. Apprenticeship and work-related peer support group. A group activity guided by a follow-up staff member where participants meet to solve issues related to construction, apprenticeship, and on-the-job situations. That's an excellent follow-up service that can be provided by your organization. And then assistance with apprenticeship and work-related problems. So it is obviously the information that we get regarding follow-up is only as good as what you enter into the system. So we want to make sure it is as accurate as possible to facilitate graduate transitions into RAPs and employment. So that was quick, but I think that's it. Are there any questions about follow-up services that I can answer for anyone right now?
Okay, there are no questions in the chat.
Okay, that is fantastic. In that case, Carlita, I'm going to turn things over to you for the evaluation.
Thank you, Monica. All right, so let us go ahead and get your feedback for this session. And so we'll begin with the first question. Please share your views on the training by rating the following statements from 1 being the lowest to 10 being the highest. To what extent did it meet your expectations? And how likely are you to attend a similar event in the future? And the third question is, how likely are you to recommend this training to others? Thank you for those responses. And for those of you who are unable to access Mentimeter, the link has been added to the chat area. You can go ahead and click the link and restart your Mentimeter. All right, thank you so much for your responses. We have about 48 people in the room. And so I'm just going to give it a few more seconds so that other people can log on and add their contributions. Great, great. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kitching. I see your scores. Thank you. All right, let's go on to the next slide. The course was relevant to what I wanted to learn about this subject. We're going to use a scale of strongly disagree to strongly agree. And as they switch around, they'll move in the order, but please don't let that discourage you. Go ahead and give your response. Thank you. Thank you. I see some strongly agrees, neither agree or disagree, somewhat agree. And we have in the chat, strongly agree. Thank you for that. Somewhat disagree, strongly disagree. So we got a variety of responses here. There's still a lot of people who haven't really answered the question yet, so I'm going to give you a few more seconds to give you a chance to answer the questions. All right. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move on. I plan to apply what I learned. Again, same strongly disagree through strongly agree. If you plan to use what you learned, it's a lot of good information that was given today. Much of which you will be able to see when you refer back to your grantee manual for this year, the 2026 grantee manual. Thank you all for your responses. Let's give you a few more seconds. I think there's still other people who are trying to get into the response area. Okay. All right, let's move on. What improvements might you recommend? After this presentation today, what improvements might you recommend? So someone started us off with NA, shorter sessions. Thank you for that. This was a lot of information. Thank you. And in the chat, we have more time to present this information. Another NA. Break up the session to 1 hour and make it shorter. That was a lot to take in and it's overwhelming. Some training conflicted with the 2026 manual. I recommend more interactive content so it does not feel like all day. NA, long but necessary. It is so much and a large time commitment being as, I want to say, this is one of the first sessions I've attended, would have changed it, wouldn't have changed it, more time due to hands-on training, and that will come next week. Allow us more time to connect with each other. There are still a few discrepancies on the questionnaire, questions answered and what is the what's in the 2026 manual. So it's a little confusing still, walking away, not as clear. Thank you for your comment. Too long of time commitment given to other responsibilities. So these are all very valid responses and want to thank you for your recommendations. Let's go on to our next slide. All right. Next slide, please. Oh, is this the next slide? Okay, there we go. What did you find effective? If we make any changes, what would you recommend we keep? So far, we have NNA. Anyone want to recommend something that we can keep? Something that you thought was very effective? I like having a different presenter. I liked having different presenters. Thank you for that. Interactive to ensure grasping the content. Yes. The descriptions of the various roles, presentation breakdown explained well. Very good. As a new grantee, I found all the material and information valuable for our organization. Thank you for that. Clarity on expectations in delivering an effective cohort, engaging with other partners. All right. Thank you. And then last, I think this is our last question, Shiva. All the information was effective. Good. Is there anything else about this course you think we should know? Okay, so we started off with no, none at this time. Any other comments? Anything you think we should know? Well, it looked like, there we go. I appreciate the information. Thank you. NA, NA, NA. Got a lot of NAs. That's probably a good thing. Thank you. Great information, but overwhelming. Job well done. A lot of information, but the resources provided makes me hopeful. Thank you for that. Shorter course or longer break. It's too long. Okay, understood. Thank you very much for your feedback today. This is all great contributions to our continuous improvement of our programming. So thank you all for participating in today's webinar, and we will see you all next week in DeKalb. Have a great afternoon. And we have one last thing.